Hi everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for another story here at Any Narrates. And the title for this one goes like this. Mother-in-law keeps making weird demands from me, and I fulfill them until she asks me to set up cameras inside my house and give her access to them. I tell my husband about it, and he tells me that she means well. But after a few weeks, I found out the real reason why she makes those weird demands, and oh boy. Alright. So let me tell you a little bit about my life. I'm Emily, 36 female, and I've been happily married to my husband Max, 36 male, for a solid decade now. Max and I actually met in college, of all places. We were both in the same economics class, and I remember being drawn to his easygoing personality and killer sense of humor. We hit it off, started hanging out more, and before we knew it, we were officially dating. Our dating phase was a blast. We were both young and carefree, exploring the world together. We went on road trips, tried out new restaurants, and spent lazy Sundays binge-watching our favorite TV shows. After a few years of dating, Max popped the question during a romantic getaway to the mountains. It was picture perfect, just like something out of a cheesy rom-com. Of course I said yes, and the rest is history. Our wedding was a dream come true. We had a small ceremony, surrounded by our closest friends and family. It was simple, intimate, and filled with so much love. Max looked handsome as ever in his suit, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive walking down the aisle towards him. Now, onto the not so glamorous part of our story, Brenda, 64 female, Max's mom. Don't get me wrong, she's a sweet woman at heart, but she has this, let's call it, an unhealthy obsession with her son. Like she's the definition of a helicopter parent. Except Max is a grown man with a wife and a life of his own. Brenda's always been overly involved in Max's life, from his childhood soccer games to his adult decisions, like what job to take or what house to buy. It's like she can't let go of the fact that her little boy isn't so little anymore. She's constantly calling him, dropping by unannounced, and trying to insert herself in every aspect of our lives. It's gotten to the point where Max and I have to set some boundaries to maintain our sanity. I've tried to be understanding, I really have. After all, Max is her only child, and I get that it's hard for parents to see their kids grow up and move on. But sometimes I feel like Brenda sees me more as a competition than a partner for her son. It's a delicate balance, trying to navigate this dynamic without causing any unnecessary drama or hurt feelings. I can deal with the obsessive mother, but lately, her demands have been getting weirder. It all started a few years ago, when she found out that Max and I have been trying to have a baby, but haven't been able to successfully. Dealing with infertility has been one of the toughest challenges Max and I have faced in our marriage. After trying for years to have a baby with no success, we finally decided to seek help from a fertility specialist. It was a difficult decision to make, but we knew it was the right step towards our dream of starting a family. When we found out that there was an issue with my ex, it was like a punch to the gut. I won't go into the nitty-gritty details, but let's just say that it was a blow to our hopes. Still, we were determined not to give up. We started fertility treatments, hoping and praying that they would work. Enter Brenda. Now, Brenda has always been a bit overbearing, but her behavior took a strange turn once she found out about our struggles with infertility. Suddenly, she became even more fixated on us, especially me. She started making these weird demands that, honestly, left me scratching my head. First off, she insisted that I sleep at a certain angle. Like, she drew out this whole diagram showing the exact position I needed to be to optimize fertility. It was bizarre to say the least, but I figured, hey, if it makes her feel better, why not give it a shot? Then there was this whole furniture rearranging thing. Brenda was convinced that the energy in our house was all wrong and that it was affecting our ability to conceive. So she showed up one day with a tape measure and started moving things around like she was some sort of feng shui expert. I couldn't help but roll my eyes, but I played along for Max's sake. But the demands didn't stop there. Oh no, Brenda had a whole list of things she thought would help us get pregnant. For starters, she insisted that I eat a specific type of soup every day, because she read somewhere that it was good for fertility. I mean, I like soup as much as the next person, but come on. Then she started harping on about the importance of wearing certain colors. According to Brenda, wearing yellow was a surefire way to boost fertility. So suddenly, my wardrobe was filled with all these bright yellow tops and dresses that I never would have worn otherwise. But wait, there's more. Brenda also became convinced that we needed to have a pet in the house to increase our chances of conceiving. She went out and adopted this tiny little chihuahua and insisted that we keep it around at all times. Max and I love animals, but it was clear that Brenda was grasping at straws here. And finally, the pièce de résistance. She started insisting that we chant a fertility mantra every night before bed. I kid you not, Max and I would stand there in our pajamas, reciting these ancient-sounding words that Brenda claimed would unlock the secrets of conception. It felt ridiculous, but we did it anyway, if only to humor her. Dealing with Brenda's demands on top of the stress of fertility treatments was like adding fuel to the fire. See, the thing about fertility treatments is that they mess with your hormones big time. So there I was, already riding the emotional roller coaster of hormones. And then Brenda came swooping in with her crazy requests. It was enough to make me want to tear my hair out, but I'm not the one to cause a scene, especially not during family gatherings. So when Brenda brought up the idea of installing security cameras around our house, I tried my best to keep my cool. Now don't get me wrong, our neighborhood is pretty safe. We've never had any major issues, and I've always felt comfortable walking around after dark. But Brenda being Brenda, she's always been overly protective of Max. So when she started going on about how it would give her peace of mind to have cameras both outside and inside her house, I wasn't all that surprised. It was just another one of her better safe than sorry moments. But then she dropped a bombshell. She wanted access to the cameras inside our house, and that's when alarm bells started going off in my head. I mean, I get wanting to keep an eye on things, especially when both Max and I are at work. But giving Brenda unrestricted access to our home surveillance system, that felt like crossing a line. So I mustered up the courage to ask her why on earth she needed access to the cameras inside our house. And her response, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly reassuring. She said that she wanted to keep an eye on things and alert us if anything goes wrong. But what exactly did she mean by anything goes wrong? And why did she feel the need to be the one monitoring our every move? I tried to brush it off as just another one of Brenda's quirks, but deep down, it left me feeling uneasy. I mean, I love Brenda, I really do, but there's only so much meddling I can take. And this felt like a whole new level of intrusion. As if dealing with infertility wasn't stressful enough. Now I had to worry about Brenda snooping around our house while we were at work. It was enough to make me want to pack up and move to the middle of nowhere where nobody could bother us. But alas, we were stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, I didn't want to upset Brenda or cause any tension in the family. But on the other hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that giving her access to our home surveillance system was a recipe for disaster. I couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling it left me with. Sure, Max tried to reassure me, telling me not to worry because he knows his mom's tendencies, but still, it was hard not to feel a bit creeped out by the whole thing. Then came last weekend, the birthday bash for Max's nephew. We were all over at Max's brother's place, having a grand old time. That's when I met Kendra, Brenda's friend. At first glance, Kendra seemed nice enough, but there was something about her that set off alarm bells in my head. It turns out, Kendra is a shaman, or so my sister-in-law informed me. Apparently, she's been in cahoots with Brenda a lot lately, which struck me as a bit odd. I mean, I've heard of shamans before, but I never imagined Brenda would be the type to consult one. Anyway, things took a weird turn when Kendra approached me and started asking about my fertility treatments. I was caught off guard, to say the least. I mean, who was this lady and why was she prying into such personal matters? I tried to brush it off politely, but Kendra was persistent. She kept probing, asking me about the specifics of my treatment and whether they were working. It felt invasive, like she was trying to dig up dirt on me or something. I shot Max a quick glance, silently pleading for him to rescue me from this awkward conversation, but he was busy chatting away with his brother, oblivious to the interrogation happening right under his nose. Eventually, I managed to escape Kendra's clutches and retreated to the safety of the snack table. But the encounter left me feeling rattled. What business did Kendra have sticking her nose where it didn't belong? And why did Brenda feel the need to involve her in our personal affairs? Feeling overwhelmed and fed up with all the weirdness surrounding Brenda and her friend Kendra, I finally decided to confront Brenda head on. I couldn't keep ignoring the strange demands and invasive questions any longer, so I mustered up the courage and approached her, ready to get some answers. I straight up asked Brenda what was going on with all the bizarre behavior lately. To my surprise, she didn't shy away from the conversation. Instead, she looked me straight in the eye and admitted that she had been talking to Kendra about my fertility struggles. Now, I was taken aback. Why would Brenda spill the beans about something so personal to her friend, especially without my consent? But before I could even wrap my head around it, Brenda started explaining herself. She told me that she confided in Kendra because she was desperate to find a solution to her fertility issues. According to Brenda, Kendra claimed to have some sort of mystical insight that could help us conceive. It sounded a bit out there, but at least it offered some explanation for all the weird demands and inquiries. As it turned out, all those bizarre requests Brenda had been making were at the behest of Kendra. Apparently, Kendra wanted to observe my daily routine to get a better sense of my energy and lifestyle habits. Hence the insistence of rearranging furniture, chanting mantras, and wearing yellow clothes. And as for the security cameras, well, that was all part of Kendra's plan too. Brenda explained that Kendra wanted access to the cameras so that she could monitor me remotely and analyze my behavior. It all sounded like something out of a sci-fi movie, but there I was, laid out plain as day. I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions, frustration, confusion, and maybe just a hint of disbelief. On one hand, I appreciated Brenda's concerns and desire to help us conceive, but on the other hand, involving a so-called shaman and giving her access to our home surveillance system felt like a bit much. After feeling overwhelmed at my nephew's party, I decided to step away and gather my thoughts. Once things had settled down, I sat down with Max and spilled the beans about everything that had gone down with Brenda and Kendra. To my surprise, Max was just as shocked and confused as I was. Together, we mustered up the courage to confront Brenda about her actions. We approached her calmly and explained how her behavior had made us feel uncomfortable and violated. We didn't beat around the bush. We told her straight up that what she did was out of line. But instead of understanding where we were coming from, Brenda got defensive. She seemed genuinely hurt and couldn't understand why we were upset with her. She argued that she was only trying to help and didn't see anything wrong with her actions. According to Brenda, all she had done was offer some advice on how to improve our chances of conceiving. She claimed that suggestions about sleeping positions and herbal remedies were meant to be helpful, not intrusive. But Max and I weren't buying it. We knew that there was more to the story that Brenda was laying on. We reminded her about the incident with the security cameras and how she had lied to us about why she wanted access to them. That's when things started to get heated. Brenda felt offended that we were questioning her motives. She couldn't understand why we were making such a big deal out of it. To her, it was all about helping us achieve our dream of starting a family. According to her, all she did was tell me how to sleep and give me some herbs. And I was like, wait, give me some herbs? When did she give me herbs? I never ate herbs. I couldn't believe it. When did she give me herbs? I racked my brain, trying to recall any instance where Brenda had given me herbs, but nothing came to mind. That's when I knew something wasn't right. I confronted Brenda, demanding answers. I refused to let her off the hook with vague explanations. The color drained from her face as she tried to backtrack, claiming that she had only meant to ask if I was taking any herbs, but her words didn't add up. She had clearly said that she gave me herbs. Fueled by a mix of anger, confusion, and betrayal, I refused to let Brenda off the hook. I demanded the truth, and finally she broke down and confessed. For months, she had been slipping herbs into my food whenever she visited. I was floored. How could she do something so deceitful and underhanded? The anger bubbled up inside me until it exploded into a furious tirade. I shouted at Brenda, asking her how dare she violate my trust like that. Max, who had been silently seething beside me, was also livid. Max and I weren't about to back down. We stood our ground and reiterated that her actions had crossed a boundary. In the end, It felt like we were talking to a brick wall. Brenda refused to see things from our perspective and continued to defend her actions. It was frustrating to say the least. As we left the conversation, Max and I couldn't help but feel disappointed. Disappointed in Brenda for her lack of understanding, and disappointed in ourselves for not being able to get through to her. I don't know what the future holds for our relationship with Brenda. For now, we are distancing ourselves from her. It was a tough pill to swallow, but it was necessary for our own sanity and happiness. And with Max by my side, I knew we could weather any storm that came our way. After the fallout with Brenda, Max and I made the difficult decision to cut her out of our lives, at least for the time being. We sat her down and explained that her actions had hurt us deeply, and we needed some space to heal and move forward. But it seemed like Brenda didn't quite grasp the concept of giving us space. Instead of respecting our wishes, she continued to bombard us with calls, texts, and messages from other relatives, all trying to guilt trip us into reconciling with her. It felt suffocating, like we couldn't escape from her relentless pursuit of forgiveness, no matter how many times we ignored her calls or politely asked her to give us some space. She just wouldn't take the hint. Things reached a breaking point last Saturday when I was out in the yard watering the plants. I saw Brendan coming up the driveway and my heart sank. I rushed inside, locking the door behind me, refusing to let her in. But Brenda wasn't about to take no for an answer. She started banging on the door, shouting and pleading for me to let her in. It was like something out of a horror movie, only instead of a mass killer, it was my own mother-in-law. I was at my wit's end, feeling overwhelmed and frustrated by Brenda's persistence. That's when I decided to call Max and ask him to come home. I couldn't deal with Brenda on my own. I needed his support. When Max arrived, we found Brenda still outside, shouting and causing a scene. He managed to calm her down and convince her to come home with him, but not before laying down the law and making it clear that if she didn't stop harassing us, she would only further damage any chance of repairing our relationship. It was a tough conversation to have, but it needed to be said. Brenda needed to understand that her actions had consequences, and if she truly wanted to make amends, she needed to give us the space and respect we asked for. In the midst of all the chaos with Brenda, there's been a major update that's rocked our family to the core. It turns out that Brenda's friend Kendra wasn't just offering advice out of the goodness of her heart. She was actually charging Brenda thousands of dollars for her so-called services. Can you believe it? All this time we thought Kendra was just a friend trying to help out, but she was actually lining her pockets with Brenda's hard-earned cash. It's like something straight out of a soap opera, only this is real life. When Derek, my father-in-law, found out about Kendra's little money-making scheme, he was furious, and rightfully so. He couldn't believe that Brenda had been duped into spending over $5,000 on someone who was taking advantage of her vulnerability. So Derek did what any responsible spouse would do. He put his foot down. He told Brenda that until she cut Kendra out of her life for good, she wouldn't see a single dime from him. It was a tough ultimatum to swallow, especially considering Brenda had been a housewife all her life and didn't have much money of her own. But something had to be done. Brenda was like an addict, hooked on Kendra's promises of mystical solutions to all her problems. She needed to be stopped before she dug herself into an even deeper hole. I'll admit, part of me felt sorry for Brenda. After all, she was my mother-in-law, and seeing her struggle like this was hard to watch. But at the same time, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief knowing that Derek was taking a stand and putting an end to Kendra's scam once and for all. It's a harsh reality to face, but sometimes tough love is the only way to break free from toxic relationships. And if cutting Brenda off from Kendra was what it took to save her from financial ruin, then so be it. It has been quite some time, but I'm here to give you guys a final update. After months of grueling treatments and countless disappointments, I reached a breaking point. It was like being trapped in a never-ending cycle of hope and heartache, and I just couldn't take it anymore. The fertility treatments had taken a toll on me both physically and emotionally. The constant injections, appointments, and tests were exhausting, not to mention the roller coaster of emotions that came with each failed attempt. It felt like my body was betraying me, and no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't seem to get pregnant. As the months went by and the reality of our situation sunk in, I began to realize that maybe biological children weren't in the cards for us. It was a hard pill to swallow, but I knew I had to face the truth. I wasn't getting any younger, and the thought of continuing down this path indefinitely, so after much soul-searching and many tear-filled conversations with Max, we made the difficult decision to end the fertility treatments. It was like admitting defeat in a battle that we had fought so hard to win, but ultimately, we knew it was the right choice for us. But that doesn't mean our journey ends here. Far from it. Instead of dwelling on what could have been, we've chosen to focus on what lies ahead: adoption. Adoption has always been something we've considered, even before we started down the road of fertility treatments. But now, it feels like the right path for us. It's a chance to expand our family in a different way, to give a child in need a loving home, and to fill our lives with joy and laughter once again. Sure, the road ahead won't be easy. There will be paperwork, interviews, and home studies to navigate, not to mention the emotional ups and downs that come with the adoption process. But we're ready for whatever challenges come our way, because at the end of the day, all that matters is providing a safe and loving home for a child who needs it. Last weekend, we finally gathered the courage to share our decision to pursue adoption with our families, and let me tell you, the response couldn't have been more heartwarming. From Max's parents to my own, everyone was over the moon with excitement. It was like a weight had been lifted off our shoulders, knowing that we had their love and support every step of the way. Even Brenda surprised us with her reaction. Despite all the drama and tension from before, she put aside her differences and embraced our decision with open arms. She told us that she was thrilled for us and couldn't wait to welcome a new member into the family. So, as we embark on this new chapter of our lives, I'm filled with a sense of hope and excitement for the future. Sure, the path to parenthood may look a little different than what we originally imagined, but I am excited for the future, and who knows, maybe one day we'll look back on this journey with gratitude, knowing that every twist and turn led us exactly where we were meant to be. But for now, we're taking it one step at a time, embracing the unknown with open hearts and open minds. And that was a wrap up for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash that like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again. We'll be seeing you in the next one.